Welcome back to Passionate World Talk Radio. Educate, enlighten, entertain. And today on Cool Your Heels with Lillian, our special guest is Joe West. And I'm going to let Joe introduce himself. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning. I'm Joe West. I am a songwriter and record producer based out of Nashville, Tennessee. I'm also a filmmaker as of this year, making a short documentary that was released. But most of my life is spent in the creative arts or doing something creatively entrepreneurially.
So keeps you busy off the streets and out of trouble.
It's kept me busy for the past 30 years.
I see. So Mom would be very proud of you.
I guess so. Yeah, now I'm 50 though, so.
You're a baby. I'm 19 years older than you are. You still a spring chicken, kid.
I guess so, but I stopped thinking about what my parents thought a long time ago. Although I'm glad they're proud of me and they are supportive.
Yeah, that always makes a big difference. In spite of all this, Joe is not here to talk about that. Joe is going to talk about positivity and how it can help you climb that ladder to success or to achieve your goals.
Yeah, that's a good point. For me, when you look at a phrase that way, I automatically think two things. I think, well, what is success for an individual? Like what makes one person happy doesn't make another person happy, right? What is one person's goal is not another. So we sort of have a vagary around those terms. And in the reality, when I'm talking with anybody about what it is they want to do, over the course of my career, I've been able to do a lot of things that people would think are successful, like win Grammys and write number one songs and produce number one songs. So they'll come to me for advice, and I'm always asking them, what is it that you want to do? What is your version of success? When you get there, will you know it? And then what does success look like from there? So, when we're looking at our lives and deciding what it is, for me, it's really distilled down to purpose. Finding a reason every day to get up and do the thing that it is you feel lucky to do. So, that's what I've focused on, is maintaining a purpose, trying to find things to be passionate about. And like I said, this year we did this film, which is all about purpose and is all about positivity. It was the story of it is that I was looking on Facebook, scrolling up my Facebook feed, and I saw this gentleman that was born with no arms or no legs. His name's Gabe Adams from Salt Lake City. And Gabe is this incredible human that, as the more I watched it, the more I was revealed to me that I wanted what this guy had, and I'm sure that a lot of people look at that video and have the response that they feel sorry for Gabe, but I felt envious of Gabe. So I started reaching out to Gabe, and we started talking, and I was just a fan of his. I didn't know what or anything that we could do together creatively. It ended up that we found out that Gabe could sing, and Gabe was interested in songwriting. And I'm like, hey, that's what I do. So what if we just sort of had this adventure where I flew out there with a film crew, and you showed me around Utah. We wrote half the song in Utah, and then we fly back to Nashville and wrote the other half in Nashville. And then we went in the recording studio and made like what could be a hit record, that level of recording. I have this small little production and audio engineering school called the Apprentice Academy, which is another passion of mine, which we spend teaching people how to be successful in the production and audio engineering fields. Very hands-on, very small class. And I wanted to teach those kids that everything Gabe was, if they could be Gabe in that respect, they would be successful in the audio engineering and producing fields. So, I just thought, this is great. We'll tell the story. We'll use it I can show it to my students. I can scratch my little video or film production bone, what I love to do. I could do another thing that I love and tell this story. So I got to do that, flew out there and had this great experience where I got to be influenced by Gabe. I'm 50, he's 20. We don't have much in common, but we sure did tell this great story. It's the name of the film is Limitless, but it's spelled with a B, Limb, limb hyphen itless, LIMBITLESS, adventure songwriting. So you can find that on YouTube. But for me, it's about finding the things like that you can be passionate about, things that you love, things that bring purpose and direction into your life, and doing those things, spending your time doing those things. So I've been lucky enough through my life to be able to do that through music and songwriting, and to be able to do it through creative outlets. I've been allowed to do that continually over the years, and I'm grateful for that. But I encourage other people who come to me and ask that question. I encourage them to find what success is for them, what will make them happy, find some goals and put some definable measures into doing them, something that gives you purpose, so that when you wake up in the morning, you're saying, hey, I've got something to go do today. I can go chase this thing.
And not only that, it's something that is you're planning your life around it or planning your life with it.
Mm-hmm.
And also, because I get a lot of people now coming up to me and saying, wow, you got picked up by a big publishing company. How did you do that? I said, about 30, 40 years worth of writing.
Yeah.
And they just look at me going, 30 or 40 years? You mean I have to wait that long? And I tell them, well, some people do it immediately. I said, my kid didn't have any problem, but he is who he is, and I am who I am. And never the twain shall meet. I said, I'm not jealous of the fact that he got instantaneous with his art and writing, but that was the way I raised him. I raised him with the idea that there's only one king on the mountain and one time, and if you want to stay king, you have to work at it. It is not going to be given to you. And that's what he does. He works at it.
Well, what I tell people, I was just talking on a podcast with a friend, and we're talking about how much you have to work at it, and how hard it is, and you've got to do it all the time. And what we fail to tell these kids when we're telling them about how hard you have to work is that it isn't really work if you love what you do.
Well, that's it. I mean, my son draws 24/7. I think even when he sleeps, he doesn't put down his pencil.
Right. How do you compete with a guy like that? You can't compete with him. If you're a 9 to 5, you cannot compete with that guy.
You can't. I mean, he was born that way. He swept the gene banks. I mean, the Mensa group asked him to join them when he was only 4 years old, and he turned them down because he told them they were a bunch of snobs. But that's a 4-year-old for you. He isn't fully grown yet. I dread to hear what he would have to say when he becomes an adult. But the fact of the matter is, you cannot compete with somebody like that. But you can work harder than somebody like that and even be recognized. And if that's your definition of success, to be recognized for what you're good at, then, my friend, you have to work at it.
Yeah.
And I also tell people, I can introduce you to my agent. However, if your writing doesn't define who you are and captivate her interest, then don't come moaning back to me. Because this is the first agent I've ever had in my life. Trust me, folks, I can decorate 3 or 4 big homes with all the rejection slips I've gotten over the years.
Yeah, that's true. Rejection is an important part of it, being able to accept it and figure out a way that's like, okay, well, it doesn't matter. It's not like I'm going to quit doing it because I love it, so I'm going to keep on doing it, and it really is a matter of just a war of attrition.
You can't take it personally. If you're going into the arts or you're going into the entertainment business, talk to the stand-up comedians. They'll tell you. You cannot take it personally, and you have to take what I call leaps of faith, and the faith is in yourself that you can do this. So you have to give yourself little prep talks, preferably use a mirror.
Like the guy in Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
Smiling.
Yeah. I mean, every time I have to have a serious conversation with myself, I put myself in the mirror, and guess what? I'm looking right back at myself.
Yeah, I mean that's part of it too. You got to find out what works for you. It's like everybody is like capable of different things or different amounts of rejection. You have to be able to see what is it that I can withstand, and then just keep on pushing yourself. Find a way to reset yourself. Have a reset button, so you can end up, resetting and getting back up to that level again. And eventually, you can only do it so many times before randomly you're right. With a little bit of talent and passion and getting better at things as you get, spend more time getting rejected. It's only a matter of time before you end up showing up on the right day at the right time with the right product.
Exactly. Remember Whistler's mom. Whistler's mother was 82 when she painted her first picture. And now people would pay millions to own that rocking chair.
It's interesting, yeah.
And so for me, where I've been finally successful in writing, and Joe has been successful in music, and Gabe has been successful in what he's doing, all of us invested time into ourselves to get the golden goose. So you need to remind yourselves with your purpose of why you're doing this.
It's true. Reacquaint yourself with your purpose continually.
So if somebody came up to you and said, well, Joe, what do I need to do in order to become part of the music? I write great songs. I perform in front of audiences in my hometown, but it's not working. And if somebody asked me that, I would tell them to go on YouTube, because I know that if you're really good, you'll develop your audience. And there's some people on YouTube who have millions of fans, and they didn't do it through TV or cable networks or anything like that.
I think YouTube's a good place. I think any proving ground where you can it's the equivalent of being a mom and pop bakery, right? You have to find your spot in the economy. So you've got to figure out how to get fans. And if you say it's not working, unless you're at like Station Zebra at the North Pole, and there is no audience, well, I would say, okay, if you do have people around you and you've got any kind of even a secondary or third, tertiary market, if you can go ahead and build an audience and find people that are willing to come see you, that's successful. So you can build that into an exponential version of itself. But you got to figure out what that is. You got to figure out why people aren't coming to see you, or do not like your songs, or won't buy your songs, or won't support you as an artist. And you got to find out what you can do to have something that's worthy of them doing that. They're not obliged to do it. There has to be something compelling there. And if you don't compel people, you can talk about how rigged it is or what the problems are with the system. But at the end of the day, you've got to find a way to be compelling. And you could do that in Topeka, Kansas, or you can do it in New York City. It doesn't matter. But I would say, depending on what they want to do, if they want to be a songwriter, I would say they probably need to get to Nashville. Nashville is where people are writing songs. They aren't having much success you aren't going to have much success if you like country music and you want to get your songs placed in country music. You aren't going to have a lot of success from abroad. Now, maybe you could, as a pop writer, you could have success from abroad, or you could get into film and television placements or have some moniker of success. Maybe Los Angeles would be a better place for pop people. Who knows? There's a lot of pop in Nashville now as well. But I would say you need to eventually get to a place, if you're a songwriter or a record producer and you want to be working on these big records in the genre, you need to find a place that makes sense for you to get to. And you need to get into that ecosystem and get better and grow your craft and grow your connections, and eventually start to see some success, start to see your songs getting cut by B-level artists, by independent artists, and then maybe by some people that have record deals, and then people that are big stars, Keith Urban and Tim McGraw. That will happen if your songs are good enough and if you stay and work hard enough. That's a solution. You maybe have to move to a town like Nashville. But YouTube could work if you're out in the middle of nowhere, maybe not as a songwriter, but as an artist. You just have to be like that mom and pop bakery on any block in town. You'd have to figure out, how do I get people to come in here and buy my rolls or my donuts or whatever it is you make. You got to find a way to be compelling and to get people through the door. And that's something you could do from abroad if you're an artist.
And the same holds true for anything in the entertainment business. You have to know who your target audience is. And then maybe you will have to move to New York if you want to sell your play. Or maybe you will have to go to L.A. for movies.
Yeah. It's very true. It's very different. Let's say you want to be a Broadway actor. Well, let's say you want to get on one of the touring Broadway shows. Well, you got to go to New York to do that. You know, that's how that happens. That's where those auditions are. That's where you sort of come up through the theater system and find the connections to find out and get in and go out and be on the touring version of Rent. You know, you have to just know what it is you need to accomplish and then build a strategy to get to that.
And the other thing you need to do is that I have a 6-year-old grandson, and I started watching him work a room when he was only 4 years old. And he would walk up to people who he knew, the kids, and then go up to the parents and give them big hugs, stick out his hand, say, "Hi, my name is bloobity bloobity doo," and then he would move on. And he would do this in an entire restaurant. And by the time he was finished, all the parents and grandparents are just glowing at this little boy who just worked them. And yes, a lot of that comes again with the genes, but that's pretty much what you need to do.
Yeah, that's true. You know, getting out and meeting people, I'm not really wired that way, so it's tough.
Neither am I. I could take lessons from him.
I force myself to do that, you know, when I need to do that. My role is, you know, I'd rather be at home with my wife and son watching a movie than out at some trendy bar with people that matter. So that I've had to find maybe a little bit different mode than that, but you know, I think that you need to go with how you're wired, but you got to find it's your obligation to be successful. No one's going to stumble across you and say what a genius you are and then put a bunch of spotlights on you. That's just not the way it works. They'll step over genius all the time. I tell people about Chris Stapleton, who was, you know, had such a big career the last 5 years, and they stepped over Chris Stapleton singing like that on Music Row for 10 years. He was singing with that voice, writing songs. Some people were cutting the songs, having some success as a songwriter. But, you know, as an artist, they were stepping over Chris Stapleton for 10 years because he didn't look like everything else that was on the radio. Now he's the biggest thing. He's been the biggest thing in country music for quite a while, you know, and selling incredible numbers of product in a world that doesn't sell product, you know. So it's, you know, no one's going to stop the world and pluck you out of obscurity. You've got to work it. You got to market yourself and step outside of yourself and be a business person for yourself. And just like I'm trying to market this film, you know, and get it out there and talk about it to folks. You know, we were on the Adam Carolla podcast, which is the world's most downloaded podcast in the Guinness Book World Records, and was able to have a huge audience hear our story. Me and Gabe flew out there for that. And it was just one of those things. It's like, you've got to, once you're done making a film, you got to go and say, how do I get people to talk about my film? How do I get it in front of people so they can have an opportunity to like it? So they can have an opportunity to forward it on to someone else. Just like if it were a song or if it was something that was creatively involved in a record.
A former babysitter that my son used to use. Well, she now is a very successful baker. How did she do it? One of the really large, well-known bands, Sting or something like that, their birthday came up. She baked a cake, hand-delivered it. They took it, and they were so impressed that they gave her this testimonial. I got to tell you, she put up her bakery, and she's been successful ever since. So what did she do? Purpose, leap of faith, marketing, a target audience, strategizing. She did it all. How old is this lady? She was 18. She's now 20. Entrepreneur, and she's doing millionaire business. So the idea is that she knew that by getting a cake out to a very successful band, even though all the odds were against her, they still accepted it. It's like I was taught a long time ago, the worst they can say is no, I'm not interested. But until you ask, until you try, you really don't know.
Yeah. Yep. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
So you've got to put yourself out there. I'm not an extrovert. I'm an introvert. Like Joe, I'd rather be at home working on something that I enjoy doing or baking, that's how I get my aggression's out is throwing the dough on the board. But the thing of the matter is, if you want to become successful, you've got to put yourself out there so people know you exist.
That's true. I don't know if maybe there's a version where people think that they're waiting around to be discovered, and that someone will come and do all of the legwork, even if they are incredibly talented. Maybe some of these like American Idol shows end up propagating a thought process like that, where someone comes to your town and all next thing you know, you're Carrie Underwood. But look at American Idol. Other than Carrie Underwood, how many names can you rattle off from American Idol over the last 20 plus years?
The one with the B. What's his name? That's the only other person I know.
That's not a good sign. The one with the B.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, you know another one. I could probably rattle off a couple more because I've written, because they come through town. You end up writing with them, but 20 plus years with the biggest audience in the world, hundreds of millions of people watching, and there's only one name that we can rattle off.
Justine Debe or whatever. Did he win American Idol, or did he come from The Voice? I mean, I watch The Voice every now and then, and
Justin Bieber didn't, but
most of the people who go through there, I don't remember at all.
That's a testament to, like, hey, that's not really the way it happened. Like Reuben Studdard was one of the guys, and Casey James, and you could go through the list of other people that were high up or winners on that show, and they had hundreds of millions of eyeballs on them, and they were legitimately talented, but it just doesn't work that way. You've got to show up every day. And Casey James, I know Casey. He's spectacular. He's a good friend of mine, and he's still killing it, but he's working hard every day. He's working and showing up and making records and crowdfunding, and he has a really great life he's carved out for himself. And that's how you got to do it. You can't just show up and become Carrie Underwood. And Carrie got to do that, and she's super, super, super talented. But let's face it, this is not how the world works.
No, it is not. And I've got to tell you, the chance encounter that I have with somebody from England who put me in front of their agent, and the agent took a look at my stuff and she was blown away. That kind of praise doesn't happen every day. And like I said, I've been writing since I was in high school. That's, practically 60 years later here, folks. Yes, I'm a grandmother. I'm proud of it. But the fact of the matter is, I didn't have any instantaneous success.
Well, once again, what is success? Some people come to me and they say, well, success for me would be for me to get my song into a movie. Other people want to roll the world and play stadiums. Anything short would be a complete failure. So you have to know what is success.
And not only
why it is. You'll go tomorrow and do the same thing.
And not only do you have to know what your success is, you have to make sure that you can handle the success that you get. And a lot of people have trouble with that.
Oh, that's true too. You've got to be able to cope with. And that's a whole other podcast of being able.
Okay, I'll bring you back and we can talk about that. Okay.
Well, you look at a guy like Gabe Adams, born with no arms and no legs. Essentially, he's a torso and a head. This guy has every reason to lay in bed, to be completely and utterly disabled and claim Social Security benefits till the day he dies. But he gets up. He walks up and down the stairs. Yes, he does, believe it or not. He can make macaroni and cheese on the stove by himself. How? You have to watch. It's crazy. It's not in our documentary, but it's in another one, the one that I had saw. He does everything on his own. He flew recently to New York City to walk the runway on Fashion Week alone. Flew to New York City from Salt Lake City, Utah, and walked on Fashion Week alone. I mean, this guy he's a tribute to what is possible in human spirit and what we can achieve if we just get rid of our preconceived notions of what we can and can't do.
Yes, the stigma.
So that's what we need to do, is find people that inspire us like that and say, you know what, if they can do it, why can't I do it? That's the whole purpose of our documentary. It's like, at the end of it, we wanted people to be entertained and to love the song that we wrote and to watch the experience and to live it vicariously through the TV screen with us. But we also wanted them to walk away with the conclusion, well, you know what, that thing that I tried to do before and failed, maybe I just need to keep trying it. maybe I should try that thing that I'm afraid to do. That's what we wanted people to leave with, an ability to maybe tackle something to question the limits they've set on themselves, to test the limits again. Say, I was unable to do that thing. I could not slam dunk that basketball last summer, but what if I worked on it this summer and I tried by the end of August? And if not, it was a worthy thing that I wanted to accomplish. This is what we want people to see through the movie. It's only a half hour long, but it's really quite moving. I felt like there's certain things creatively that I get to be a part of, records that get noted and maybe win a big award or sell a lot of records or become a gold or platinum record or triple platinum record, or, get to the level where people were talking to me about these records. They all have sort of one thing in common, is that you see the way, or the potential in them at a certain point when you're working on them. And this film is like that, and I don't know anything about film. I'm doing my best to get the word out, talking on your podcast and your radio show with other people's, and going on wherever we can find opportunity for it. But at the end of the day, I was lucky to be able to be a part of it. I'm better because of it. I got to take my 15-year-old son with me. He worked on the film crew. There was just a teeny little tiny film crew, me and my son and a guy named Sean Hudgens, who's a great cameraman. And, we got to live this adventure. So we got that. When it was all said and done, we got to live that. And we hope other people see it and get to feel like they lived it too. And it's a really compelling story, which is, as a songwriter, that's all I care about, is the story. And as a writer, that's all you should care about is the story there. What are you saying? Can you tell a story that's worth being told? And can you tell it as good as it needs to be told, or are you going to fail the story? And for our first film, I'm blown away that we didn't screw it up too badly. I think we really told a great story here that's worthy of being told and kind of lived up to it.
It sounds fantastic. So, Joe, is there anything else before we wind up this version? I'm pretty sure we're going to have a couple others.
Yeah.
And with your contact information, where people can take a look, the usual stuff.
Yeah. So you can find me at joe-west.com. That has all my creative outlets. My school is apprenticeacademy.net. That's a hands-on audio engineering and production school. And the film is Limitless, Limitless, Adventure Songwriting, and it's on YouTube. Or you can go to inspired-docs.com. It's on there too. So I know that's a ton of stuff, but if people push pause, they can rewind and listen to it. Thanks for having me on. It's been great talking to you.
I enjoyed it. Okay, folks. First of all, you can ask for our transcript.
Yeah, there you go.
We can separate the audio from the video. Oh, we don't have the video. But if we had the film, and if you wanted the audio separated from video on Joe's documentary film, we can do that as well. Okay, I got that one out. Also, I can give you a transcript of the audio. You can hear this interview all over again at https://passionateworldtalkradio.com. Right-hand side of the page, menu, scroll down, Cool Your Heels. Click on it, and you should see it. It will also be posted on iTunes, iHeart, amfm247.com/Lillian Cauldwell. Also on Spotify, Spreaker, Alexa, Podcatcher, on LinkedIn, all social media, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook.com/PWR Network. Before you go away and stray, Jeanne Roston had this to say in 1925, "We find it easy to believe that praise is sincere. Why should anyone lie in telling us the truth?" Indeed. Until next time, thank you very much for listening, and stay healthy.